Okay people, today let's take a quick look at the Hasbro Star Wars Black Series IG-12 and Grogu. And hey, some Anzellans too, come on, respect the Anzellans. I've got a good stack of Star Wars Black Series figures piling up that I've been planning to do a playday for, but I haven't got to it yet. I'm getting there though. But I wanted to do this by itself because I've been asking for this. Well okay, maybe not this. Although I am happy to get this version of an IG unit, don't get me wrong. But I've been asking for larger IG parts, I guess. And this may be a good first step towards that. Because nobody has given us a properly scaled IG-88 from Empire Strikes Back yet. Medicom and Bandai gave us damn good versions of IG-11, which we'll get to here at the comparisons on down the road. But man, nobody's done IG-88. Now, again, depending on how this is out of the package, all three companies have a good starting point to finally put, I was going to say nail in the coffin, but I guess rivet in the droid, bolt on the robot, something, I don't know. Looking at the trash around my plastic here, it's what we're used to with Star Wars Black Series. We are looking at a deluxe size box here though. I don't know. When it comes to Hasbro Star Wars Black Series, I think they justified the deluxe pricing by how much new sculpt is involved. Or the actual height of the figure. You know, Wrecker, Jar Jar, Boba Fett. On the side, some nice artwork of IG-12, Grogu, and Anzellan. On the back, there's a closer-up picture of that, and then a bio or a brief history of what went on there. It's number 41 in the Mandalorian line with the orange-brownish stripes. Warning, small parts. Don't put the pointy robot down your throat. Includes 2 figures and 2 accessories. So we're calling IG-12, which was essentially a vehicle, and Grogu with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points of articulation figures, yet the Anzellans with a few points of articulation, both characters in the show, accessories. Nothing on top, dark, black, empty, like my wallet at this point. On the bottom, barcodes, legalese. Let's get this open. Oh, and getting it out of the package, there is a lot to like here, a lot to look forward to, hopefully, but there's also some things to dislike. The biggest positive, though, is its size compared to the old Hasbro Star Wars Black Series IG-11, which is Hasbro's IG-88 with a different bandolier and paint job. And IG-88 was tiny the first time around, or this may be the re-release. I can't even remember. So they got some of the colors right, but this is IG-88's torso, which is the big difference between, or well, one of the noticeable differences between 11 and 88. But now they have bigger head, bigger arms, bigger legs. Essentially, all they need to do is whip up a couple of new torsos for each individual droid. So like I said a minute ago, this is a good start to hopefully more IG units in the future. As far as IG-12 goes, though, the sculpt is pretty on point from what we see in the show. It's not exact because, again, I think there may be reuse planned already for this. There's going to have to be some changes, but as far as IG-12 goes, yeah, the coloring, the sculpt work, the opening torso for the cockpit look with the sticks right here, the armor looking plates coming down over the thighs with a little gear work, some innards, some tubing coming down that's made of a soft material to get out of the way of articulation, down to these cylinder looks on the outside of the legs and the tiny feet, which are accurate to IG-11/12, but that doesn't mean I have to like them, especially when they're engineered to have the pin going essentially straight up and down. There is some slight angle to the front, but not enough to compensate to get that foot flat on the ground all the time, but we'll get to that. Opening clamp hands doesn't make up for that, but it's a good start. These little hooks on the back of the forearms coming up to the cream color of the biceps, this copper color around the shoulders, and then, well, okay, those are a little silver there, and the white to simulate the lights up in the head, but then the rest of the body is essentially in the base colors. So the main colors are there, but what throws it off is it's lacking that Star Wars grunginess, that dirtiness of the universe. There's no dings, there's no scratches, pitting that makes it feel used, worn. In fact, the gray plastic is downright shiny, especially up here on the head. There is a lot of reflection coming off that. And I know it's supposed to be metal, but you know what I mean. The Star Wars, especially IG-12, he was repurposed after being blown to shit. So yeah, it needs a little bit of gunk to it. It just needs a wash. Maybe some dry brushing. I didn't realize it in the show, but here it looks like there's padding. In case it gets jostled around, Grogu's not bouncing his little noggin off metal parts inside. And I've opened this several times, and like I showed, it kind of flipped out. When I close it, there is a bit of a snap, but not really when pulling it open. It stays, but it also feels slightly loose. Complete opposite end of the spectrum, the right shoulder was locked up. I actually had to hit that with some heat after I grabbed the arm and tried to rotate it from there. And then I was like, dummy, that is a tiny little peg. What are you doing? I guess because the left rotated that same way. But even then, there is a bit of a play. And again, that's a little bitty piece of plastic. So when you rotate the arms, I'd probably suggest doing it like this, grabbing the shoulder piece itself. Bringing the old IG units in, I was always worried about these rubber well, in fact, look at that. That one has kind of dried up and split with the movement. With IG-11, they bypassed that altogether. They just sculpted the elbow to look like it has the rubber piece over it, but then you can see the joint. And it's the same thing at the knees. And again, these hoses do a good job of getting out of the way. In fact, that one pinches up into the knee, but doesn't really hinder it at all. Coming back to the feet though, because I mentioned that they were hard to get flat to the ground. The ankle piece is straight up and down, and it's got to go down into these wedges down here that we're calling feet. That's on top of there being a detent here and here. So it snaps to these two spots, and that's back, that's forward. So you're kind of just balancing it in the middle and then trying to get this body and this tallness on top of these two little pieces down here, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. You got to play around with it. It is not easy. You got to fight it, and it won't go to the inside unless you kind of kick it off center from the ankle piece. Let's see what that does. That actually works a bit better, because it flattens the feet out. Who knows how long it'll stay before it snaps back into position because of the detents or the way it fits on the bottom of that. Yeah, if you push down, it pushes it back into position. It pushes it back straight, which angles the foot out, and then you get this rock back and forth thing going on. For articulation, starting at the very tip top of the head, I'm not quite sure of the engineering involved, but you can turn the very top, the cone of the head. There's also this piece that floats on top that can rotate. You can rotate the eye stalks, and then there's the base that, well, it turns the whole thing because it's at the bottom holding everything together. Shoulder piece can rotate all the way around. Inside that, there's a ball joint with a peg coming down to the bicep, and you see it's open there, so it swings out to here, and then there's rotation. But then there's also rotation under this beige piece, so you can turn the elbow. There's a hinge at the elbow that gets good range. The hand rotates at the wrist, and then the two claws, or the pairs of fingers, are hinged to go in and out. The torso opens up to put the pilot in, and then these two sticks are on ball joints that go side to side. Ball joint coming out to the hip, you gotta kind of go out to avoid the crotch piece, but up to there and back, and then out. There is some rotation on that ball joint, but then there's a swivel about right here under this plate, so you can rotate the leg there too. You can also rotate the knee at the top. That hinges to about right there. Swivel at the ankle, there's hinge that goes back to here, forward to here, and I've already talked the forward-facing, or not so forward-facing pin to death. There is some slight rotation, but Ooh. But then there's Grogu. Accessory, not accessory, figure, not figure, whatever. I do like the look of this. It's solid looking. There's no gap. The head is nicely sunk into the collar. I'm not sure if this is reused because of how many Grogus we've gotten at this point, but I do like what I'm holding in my hands at this exact moment in time. Paint's pretty nice. There is some rosiness to the cheeks. The inside of the ears are painted. The black to the eyes. Articulation, does that? Yeah, just like the rest. There's a ball joint going down so you can turn the head side to side, and a little up, not down. I was going to say down, but there's no down. Arm swivels forward and back, and is it a ball joint? Does it go out a little bit? Same for the hand. There is some side to side, some rotation up and down, whichever direction you want to go. Feet are also, oh, is that ball joint? Does that do some tipping too, side to side? Look, that's more than the IG unit. To put him inside, I have been told several times to tuck the ears. So I'm guessing that goes like that, and then get the arms up and then close it up. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. For accessories, there are other figures, other characters. They were in the show. They had a part. Respect the Anzellans. I do like that they are individuals, especially in the facial features. One's got a mustache, the other has a goatee. This one looks a little happy. This one looks a little bewildered. They have different headgear. I do believe the arms are reused, so I'm going to guess the legs. Maybe. Okay, nope. The belts are different. Crotch covers are different. Got some head movement. Have some arms coming up and down. Not as much as Grogu. Okay. Is that why they're calling it an accessory? I don't think the legs move either. Got a waist, though. Let's see how they fare inside the torso. Way smaller. It's like custom made for Grogu, which makes sense. I'm cool with that. But in a pinch, the Anzellans can drive it around too. Size-wise, IG-12 stands at about 7¼ inches tall. Grogu is about 1 1/8 inches, and then the Anzellans are slightly under 1 inch with their headgear on. Come on, come on. What happened to your legs, guys? Here's 12 next to 88 and 11. Yeah, this is how it should look. I don't know the proper size for an IG unit, but bigger is better. Just get out of here. Not quite as big as the imports, though. This is the Bandai SH Figuarts IG-11 and the Medicom Mafex IG-11 that I put IG-88 parts on from the Black Series figure. It's not accurate, but it's better size-wise. Here it is next to one of the more recent Black Series Mandalorians, the one with the cloth cape, and then Greef Karga. Yeah, I like that size much better. Here's Grogu with the Anzellans, has a little size on them. And then 2 other Black Series Grogus. Now that it's side by side, I think this one may be a little bit more accurate to the show, but they both look good. So at the end of the day, it does exactly what it's meant to do. Stand there and just kind of hold Grogu. Or it's supposed to stand there. It's doing pretty good at the moment. Again, I've got the feet kind of turned in and then rotated out, but we'll see how long that stands. I'm gonna leave it for a while, see where it goes from there. No. The day after I shot this review, I came out to the shop to check and see if IG-12 was still standing. Okay, a day later, and it's still holding strong. But then a couple of hours later, as I was sitting here painting, fell right over. And now it's been several days since that, and I keep walking over, and I keep fiddling with the feet, and I keep trying to get them flat, and I do the turn inside kind of thing, and then get this, and then turn this inside, and then it can get solid for a minute, but it's eventually going to fall back into the detent and do that. Now, I know I'm a positive kind of guy. To a fault sometimes. I bought this, I spent money on this, I was excited about it because of the possibilities, so the initial reaction is, oh, well, okay, I can fix that. Maybe I can swap something out, tighten it up, do something. But the more I've sat on it, the more I've slept on it, the more I've pondered, that there's 2 or 3 different ways they could have done this, but they went with this, and this way sucks. It's set up in the way regular feet are set up, articulation-wise, but these ain't regular feet. And I get it, IG-12 was just supposed to be standing there, but if it can't even do that basic functionality, then what good is it? No matter how much articulation you stuff into the body above that, especially in the legs, the knees, the hips, if you can't get a stable base, if you can't get the feet flat on the ground, that's useless. I don't know how else to say that. My only redeeming thought is if this is reused for IG-88, that has different feet. They're bigger, they're chunkier, they have more clearance, more space maybe, but as is, yeah, the new parts are cool, and yes, I will probably mess around with this at the customizing desk, see what I can find. Like, maybe put a ball joint in there where it goes down and then it can rock on that. Anything's better than this. And that's a shame, because the rest looks good besides the lack of paint. I really love how Grogu fits in there. I like the size. I like the stature. I like the rest of the articulation, but those ankles can burn in hell. So if you're looking for a project, pick this up. But if you get frustrated easily by things, and I don't really. In fact, like I said, this is several days on, and all I've done is like, why didn't they do that? I'm not frustrated. I'm just trying to get a point across. Steps forward, steps back. Man. So, at your own risk. There you go. That's the review.